In March 1943, on a cold dark night in East London, hundreds of people descended the steps of Bethnal Green underground station seeking safety. But what they found was something far worse. A single moment of panic turned one of London's safest refuge into a scene of unimaginable horror. By the end of that night, 173 people, mostly women and children, lay dead. This is the story of the Bethnal Green Tube shelter disaster, Britain's worst civilian tragedy of the Second World War, and one that remains shrouded in silence for decades. By 1943, the people of London had lived through nearly 4 years of war. The Blitz, those terrifying months of nightly bombing, had destroyed homes, factories and entire neighbourhoods. Even though the heaviest bombing had eased, the fear never truly left. Sirens could sound at any moment. The underground stations, dark, damp and crowded, had become sanctuaries of survival. Families would carry blankets, flasks of tea and even small furniture down into the tunnels. Babies slept in bunks. Volunteers handed out soup. For many Londoners, the tube shelters were a second home, safe, familiar and protective. But safety, as the night would prove, could be an illusion. It was the evening of March 3rd, 1943. At 8:17 p.m, the air raid siren sounded over East London. It was a routine warning, but on this particular night, something was different. Earlier that day, the British Army had begun testing a new anti-aircraft rocket battery in nearby Victoria Park. As the first salvo of rockets was fired into the sky, they made a strange, unfamiliar noise, a deep, thunderous whoosh echoing over the rooftops. People in Bethnal Green, already on edge, assumed the worst. The Germans were back. Within minutes, hundreds of men, women and children began hurrying toward Bethnal Green Underground Station, their local shelter. The entrance to the station was a simple stairway, 19 steps, leading down from street level, enclosed by a brick wall on either side. There was no handrail down the middle. The lighting was dim and it was raining. At the bottom of the staircase, a woman carrying a baby tripped and fell. In an instant, others behind her stumbled too. One, then another, then dozens. Within seconds, a human pile began to form. People crushed together, unable to move, unable to breathe. Eyewitnesses recalled screams echoing through the stairwell, the sound of boots slipping, of people shouting for help. One man tried to pull people out from the pile, but it was already too late. The pressure of the crowd above forced more people downward, packing the staircase tighter and tighter. In total, around 300 people were caught in the crush. By the time rescue workers arrived and began pulling bodies free, the silence was overwhelming. In just 15 seconds, 173 lives had been lost. 62 of them children. And yet, incredibly, there had been no bomb, no explosion, no enemy attack. Only fear and a chain reaction of panic. The following morning, East London woke to the news of an unspeakable tragedy. Outside the station, mothers searched for missing children. Volunteers worked through the night identifying bodies laid out in nearby buildings. But within hours, government officials moved to suppress the story. With morale already fragile and the war still raging, authorities feared the news of such a disaster might cause public outrage, or worse, a loss of trust in the shelters. So, for months, the true cause was hidden. Newspapers were told to print only a brief statement claiming a tragic accident had occurred without giving details. The people of Bethnal Green, however, didn't need newspapers to tell them what happened. They had seen it, and they would never forget. An official inquiry was quietly launched, led by Mr. Lawrence Rivers Dunn. When his report was finally released in 1946, it confirmed what many already knew. The disaster had been entirely avoidable. There had been no adequate lighting, no central handrail on the staircase, and crucially, no crowd control in place, even though airway warnings were still common. The report cleared local authorities of deliberate negligence, but concluded that lack of foresight and preparation had allowed the tragedy to unfold. It was, in every sense, a preventable disaster. Among the dead were entire families, mothers clutching their babies, brothers and sisters trapped together. Stories emerged of quiet heroism. A man who tried to form a human chain to pull people free. A teenage girl who saved her younger sibling before she herself was crushed. Ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. For decades after the war, survivors spoke little of what they'd witnessed. Many felt shame, as if their grief somehow didn't belong in the official story of wartime bravery. It wasn't until 50 years later that a proper memorial began to take shape. Today, outside Bethnal Green Station, a striking memorial stands, the Stairway to Heaven. It's a graceful curve of white concrete suspended over the entrance where the disaster occurred. Each of the 173 names is engraved in bronze, their ages beside them, from a few months old to 70 years. The memorial isn't just a reminder of death, it's a symbol of community, resilience and remembrance. For the people of Bethnal Green, it stands as both a warning and a tribute. A warning that fear can turn deadly in an instant, and a tribute to those who sought shelter and never came home. The Bethnal Green disaster is often called the tragedy that time forgot. But it deserves to be remembered, not as a tale of failure, but as a reminder of the fragility of life in wartime and the quiet strength of ordinary people. Every step on these stairs carries a story. Every name carved in bronze represents a life, a family, a future cut short. And as we walk past Bethnal Green Station today, bustling, loud, alive, it's worth pausing for a moment to remember the night in 1943, when fear, confusion and darkness came together and changed a community forever.